Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to round 4 of this AFR Super Formula Season 13. We are here in France today in the track of Magny, which holds some history in its current lifespan. But before we go into that, we are going to go into our current standings of Season 13 Ice Sprint Stopper after Andy Park's DNF from last week leads the championship by 10 points. Andy Park still holding on to second. Victor Burnett holds on to third for the time being with a bit of a gain on Andy Park behind him, 2 points. Then Tuki Gonzalez in fourth place, with your top 5 being rounded out by Johan Kareljak from 6th to 10th. It is Juniper Makova, Charlie Lamberson, Roland Justin, Sebastian Kroh, and Nick Highcallis. From 11th to 15th, it's Ali G, Foxy, Kukuvinos, Anno, and then Catrichaville. Then from 16th to 20th is Milo, Mazol, Muck, Alhafi, and Pedroso. Then your 21st driver, and I'm very sorry if I messed this up, it is Priskotsky. And so I hope I didn't mess it up too much, but of course, if I have. And there you go, there's our race director, Nick, just coming in with our second team speak test. He will be the race director, and he will be in charge. So with that 3-minute join period announced by the race director, we'll just go through your constructors' standings very quickly. Rounding out your top 5 is Revolution 9 Racing and Arrow Motorsports, operated by 6 points. Then it's Sentinel Racing, Vanguard Racing Team, and Nokiolina Racing Team, with Razoo Windmill Racing in 6th, 3 points behind. Then from 7th to 10th is Velowon Racing, Royal Motorsport, and GKS Motorsport, with Simline Rivals Racing Team, rounding out your top 10. And then, with no points on the board, is Untitled Racing Team and Kings Racing. We will be underway in just a few moments. We're going to join the server, but more importantly, let's bring onto the stream an absolute legend of AFR. It is the one and only Sarah Mulfetova. How are you doing this fine afternoon?
Your first time watching AFR, what are you most excited for since last time you watched this league?
Oh, so the last time I watched this league was obviously in Season 12. I've been keeping up with the race results every now and then when I can. But there's several rule changes that have happened while I've been gone, and I'm just excited to see how this all works out. So, of course, we have the sprint race, which is reverse championship order, like I saw. I believe this is a 15-minute race, if I've got this correct. I indeed have. Yes, a 15-minute sprint.
1 minute to start.
As we now have a call from the race director, 1 minute till we get started for the sprint. Then qualifying is a 15-minute session, but then the top 5 go into a 10-minute Super Pole shootout. I'll go through all of that in just a second after the sprint, but then the race is at a distance of 125 kilometers or 40 minutes, whichever one comes first. And I'm excited. I think you actually messaged me about this a few weeks ago, but the advanced tire wear, I think they've increased the tire wear within it, and so it's actually encouraging people to actually get a strategy together rather than just play it by a one-stop and then go to the end. Am I correct in saying that, Sarah?
Yep, you're correct. Also, please stream to Discord so I can watch.
Absolutely, yes, because our countdown is just about to end, so we can hear the rev notes rise. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red lights in Magny. It's go in France, and I think we've had a disqualification already. Anno gets us off the grid well. 3 wide in the background between Highcallis, Makova and Kareljak, and everybody getting away cleanly into the first couple of turns. At the moment, there's a couple of swapping gear in there. It's all in the midfield where the action is. Anno gets away cleanly, but Kareljak is already within 2.5 tenths of everybody, but 3 wide. going into the right-hander called Adelaide, and Karonchak is about to take away the lead from Anno. And Karonchak round the outside gets that done, and Haikalis has also gone up into third as well. Lots of side-by-side action, Sarah, but everybody getting away well, but through no quickness, the first bit of contact there. A very tight track, isn't it?
It is a very tight track, and it was a beautiful move by Johan Karonchak at the prime overtaking opportunity as Haikalis gets squeezed off a little bit, goes into the ground and loses some positions, but most importantly, he's still facing the right wing. There's a few cars side by side. It's Mako and Bernat at the very rear end of the pack due to the sprint race format where they start at the back. Meanwhile, some others have made some great progress. Andy Park and Icebrand Stoppa already into P4 and P5, and I'm sure they're gonna resume their massive championship battle within a few laps from now.
Absolutely. Now, there was a bit of controversy with lap counts earlier on, but it looks to be that, you know, Park has been allowed to continue on, as has Victor Bernat, so we will, of course, see these two, as Sarah just alluded to, continue with the championship fight as Stopper goes up into third place there, trying to increase his lead over Andy behind, but Andy's still hot on the heels. Anno has done a very good job here using a push to pass already, so just in case if you are new to AFR, that little number on the right of the race number there where it's green and blue, that is the push to pass count, and it actually just increases the fuel flow by, I believe, 105%. Don't quote me on that, that's just what I read on the internet. Well, timers, Gonzalez having a spin there through a corner, which is, well, the name is 180 degrees, a literal 180 degree turn, and that's Gonzalez down to 8th place. Unfortunate for him, but now Bernat is on the back of Haikalis, and can he get that done through here? Thinks better of it, backs out the move at the very last minute. But at the moment, Stopper now and Park are now on the back of one another. These are the championship contenders going, well, throughout season 13 so far. Stopper on the defense to Park there, going into what they call Complex to Lai Chi, I think it is, but again, I could be mispronouncing that. But now we have completed, I believe, the third lap of racing, and Karonchak looks to be running away with the sprint race victory, and Anno just holding on to second for all he's worth.
Anno's actually doing a very good job holding on to second, though this track is quite difficult for overtaking, because though there are some good braking zones where you can send a move down the inside, they are preceded by corners where you generally cannot follow very well, but we're seeing an overtake happen between Bernat and Haikalis, and Bernat stays ahead, and that is pretty much the prime overtaking zone at this track. And honestly, as we see someone go very wide there, as well as Haikalis, it was Andy Park and Haikalis both going wide there. Yeah, when you go with dirty air in that chicane, the car cannot really handle it because you lose a lot of downforce in the dirty air, and already at that chicane you are really challenging all of your wings that you have. As we see Anno get hit by Icebrand Stoppa, and there's more carnage right
Full
behind.
course yellow in 10 seconds. 10, 9,
full course yellow
8,
is understandably
7,
deployed,
6,
which means now
5,
the racing will settle
4,
down and no one can
3,
overtake.
2,
as the
1,
countdown ends.
0. Pit exit closed.
Now.
Sorry, pit entry closed. If you take your... no, minus sprint race, ignore me.
Our race director has been under a bit of stress before this race, so please do forgive him if he makes the occasional mistake here and there. But full course yellow deployed, and Anno doing a good job holding on to second, is flattered into the back of by, I believe it was Icebrand Stopper. And then, unfortunately, that just caused this chain reaction. And Anno just really couldn't find a way out of it. And, of course, just...
And full course yellow ending in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Green flag, green flag.
And on the top of that, it looks like 10-second penalty for Anno for speeding under full course yellow conditions. So it goes from bad to worse here. Sarah, I did actually have a question, but we had all sorts of chaos happen. And, well, same for Haikalis as well. 10-second penalty for a full course yellow, speeding under the full course yellow conditions. On a tight track like this, of course, this will be a question more relevant into the feature race, and I might bring it up again as Bernat and Anno have gone together again. And it looks... Yeah, these two are having a bit of trouble adjusting to the Magny course track, but on to my question, which I'm trying to ask you, is with the track being so tight, hard to overtake, lots of dirty air, as you alluded to earlier on. Like, what is your kind of call with the strategy there? Are you looking to undercut or overcut? And I would obviously assume that would depend on what position you are in.
And that definitely depends on what position you are in. If you are stuck behind the car in front of you, you would generally want to try the undercut just to get ahead, as we see Hekas and Gonzalez have contact before the last chicane, but no, not much harm done there. Maybe an illegal overtake, but anyways. On a track like this, if you are stuck right behind someone, like Park is stuck behind Stoppa, unable to get within slipstream range before this turn due to the dirty air, you would generally want to try the undercut just to get ahead after the pit stops and just to get that track position. However, if you are not that close behind where you could overtake in the pits, you would generally want to try something else. Just do the opposite and give yourself a chance to overtake, because really to overtake here you need to have a pace difference, and you're only ever gonna achieve that with better tires. So in that case I would personally try to stay out as long as possible and just brave the tires, and then ensure I have a tire advantage, so at least if I do manage to eventually catch up, that I have a chance to overtake, because otherwise it's quite difficult to do that here.
Thank you very much. So we'll see how that all plays out, and of course I'm sure Sarah will expand more upon that once we are actually in the feature race. But just under 8 minutes to go in the sprint, and we are seeing Stopper and Park go at each other here, just playing a game of chess. Korolchak with the fastest lap of the race, a 1:17.218, so he will currently take the fastest lap. But Andy Park is also saving his push to pass. He didn't use it last time around, using it here now, as is Makova, also using it last lap. Gaps are relatively close if you look at the top six, but of course Victor Bernat and Anno having a bit of drama in the background sadly meant that their battle has been separated, and Anno losing his second place. But at the moment, with things going on, I mean, without being biased, Sarah, who do you think is going to be ahead once this race comes to an end? Is it going to be Stopper ahead of Park, or Park ahead of Stopper?
You know, with the nature of this track, I think Stopper obviously has the track position advantage, so Andy Park is doing a really good job sticking right behind him and maybe waiting for a mistake, but I think unless there is any mistake by either Stopper, I think he's got it in the back. So I think right now his main goal is to just stay composed and make sure not to give Andy any kind of sniff at an opportunity, because I know that Andy will go for anything he gets right now, but he's not gonna get a lot if as I said, Iceman doesn't make a mistake.
I think that Park's best opportunity would be into Adelaide, which is just the straight we come through here now, of course, after what's called Grand Curve. I think he's got to kind of find himself close there. He kind of carries that through Sector 2. He's usually within 3/10, but then he kind of makes a mistake. He's just a bit too desperate on that right foot. And of course, the dirty air, of course, needs to be considered, so you won't have the best grip.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was an opportunity which Andy had a few laps ago where he was only less than 2/10 behind coming into the first corner, but just during that first corner, he lost enough time to lose the slipstream on the next straight. That's how difficult it is to stick behind someone else in that corner due to the dirty air, and it really makes sense when you consider how much downforce these cars have. I don't know if you've ever driven these cars, but they have an insane amount of grip, and it's only mainly due to the wings.
Yes, I have driven these cars before. It was in a sister league. It was Cyanide Racing. I can't remember the season name, but I can't remember what it was, but I had a really good result in Paul Ricard, but due to some weird stuff with the 7, as Andy Park sets the fastest lap now and takes that away from Korolchak there, 1:17.143, just comes up on the screen right now, but it's not enough for Park. He's just a few tenths more behind than he'd like to be. And at the moment, 7/10 of a second coming into the straight down into Adelaide. He did use a push to pass. Has 2 more on Stopper, so Park with 6 and Stopper with 4 there. That will play an advantage towards the end of the race. And
not really, actually. because
I think so.
there's only 4.5 minutes left. That's not enough to use all 6 push to passes because they take a minute to recharge. So I think Andy's saved too many push to passes.
All right then, Sarah there with some more info. You can tell who's driven more of the car, I'll tell you that for free. Sido's partner league, not sister league. I do apologise there, thanks for the correction. Admin is a partner league, Cyanide is a partner league, forgive me for the error. But yeah, no, I raced these in that league, and yes, they have a lot of downforce, but they are very tricky to control with your right foot, and that's where the advantage usually is. But anyway, as of right now, start finish straight, just under 4 minutes to go, and again on that final corner the gap just increases by that little bit. You push to pass being used by our top 3 as of right now, and Gonzalez is very close, and I think he could be the one next on a move. Here we go, down the straight to Adelaide. Makova is just 6/10 in front, and Tuki will have the slipstream, and he'll have the push to pass in use. So will Makova to try and defend from the driver behind. Can one or the other make a move? No, they stick behind for now. So it looks like you need to be a little bit closer than would seem in order to make the move. Sarah, what would you say would be the gap going into Adelaide? You would need to think about move down the inside, considering how tight the corner is.
So the thing with Zero Corsa is that in any car, no matter what you're doing, the slipstream is always at exactly 0.5 seconds. So if you are below 0.5 seconds, you get slipstream, but you also get dirty air. As we see right here with Gonzalez right behind Juniper and Makova, I wonder if he's gonna think about a move. No, not into here, but he's gonna stick behind it. He's gonna get an opportunity down this straight, and he's close enough for the slipstream, so he will stick behind for just a little bit more. And I wonder if that's gonna force a defensive shape. No, still not close enough. And I was gonna also talk about this last chicane, which is very unique. There is a line which can gain you a few tenths if you take it right, and it's very risky because you're gonna have to tackle the curves in a certain way, and if you get it just a little bit wrong, it's gonna spit you out into the outside wall on the exit, and you're gonna end your race. So you have to be really careful, and I don't think most drivers will try that unless they've gotten consistent enough at it. But it's really all about precision there. As we see Juniper go a little bit wide, made a mistake, and Gonzalez goes into the back of her. Maybe it goes a little bit too wide and just collects her on the exit. That's really unfortunate, and that is going to be looked at by the stewards after the race as Juniper drops down even further behind Nick Haikalis.
Unfortunate there as well. Sarah has already run through. Gonzalez into the back of Makova as Anno gets a 3-second penalty for track limit violations, but now all of a sudden we have a 3-car race for 5th place. Victor Bernat now looking at the back of Juniper Makova in this last minute and a half. Now, Sarah, do just have one question for you. Is it timer sets and +1 lap, or timer done and then that's the final lap?
That's the final lap. When the timer runs out, whatever lap the leader is on, that is the final lap. As we see Juniper drop another position, she possibly has picked up some damage, I think, because she's really struggling to get a hold of the car, as that move looked very simple for Victor Bernat, I must say.
Yes, Makova did kind of peel off to the inside, slowed down, and then just let him through before they approach the corner. So respectful driving from Makova to respect Bernat's pace, but Bernat now out of push to pass, and I do believe this... Ooh, I don't think this is going to... No, I think this should be the final lap. It will be very close, but a couple of battles...
Not. I think there's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, there is going to be 6 seconds left, just about.
Very close regardless then. So here we go. Kowalczak will have to go around one last time. 3 seconds separating him from the battle for second place between our 2 championship contenders. But now Bernat is dangerously close to Haikalis. And now Bernat could be thinking about another move on the final lap. And yes, with 6 seconds to go, as there's a bit of contact there. On the outer corner, we have one final lap. So leaders are on final lap. The top 3, well, second and third, but here we go. Bernat to the outside here on the penultimate lap for him. He cuts across the inside line through the chicane, gets it done. What a move! As Haikalis makes a mistake in turn, and Makova and Bernat both gain a position from that. And while could Makova put on a charge, she still has one last push to pass to come. And she could get into that slipstream range and try and have a go. And yeah, there we go. It's being used now. Down this straight. Down to Adelaide. She is in slipstream range. Does she go for the move? No, she slots in behind for now. But just an update on that battle for second. It did end up separating. So that will mean that Stopper should be ahead of Park, because Park is now starting to lose ground on the car in front. So that will mean as... Oh, Burnhouse made a mistake as well. Oh my word, as Makova, in a turn of events, goes up to 5th. But now, Karolchak comes across the final few corners now, and it will be his sprint to win in Magny Cours. And we will have the qualifying straight after. Stopper finishes ahead of Park. The positional advantage came in handy for the championship contender, as now Gonzalez across the line in 4th. Makova, even after everything that happened, comes home 5th place, 8 seconds behind Gonzalez. Callis will come home 6th, and Victor Bernat went straight to the pits and retired. And Anno as well comes home 8th place. I don't think he was... No, he was a lap down, I think, but don't quote me.
He was a lap down. Yeah, so Victor was...
Just to update you what happened to Victor. I was actually watching that. His car just snapped to the right through the vast chicane and into the wall.
Thank you very much, Race Director, giving us a bit of an update there. Thank you for also being a pit lane reporter or trackside reporter.
All drivers, that is the race over now. Qualifying server will be up shortly.
All right, and this means that we will have to exit the server, but of course, happy days for Karolchak, winning the sprint race to get the proceedings underway this afternoon. Qualifying is not too far away, and the server restart will go ahead. So, Sarah, that was a good sprint race, considering the track is very tight. That was actually a lot of overtaking being produced there.
Yeah, but it was some decent racing, but it also really shows that it really takes a mistake to really get a shot at overtaking here. But the thing is that this track has some quite tricky corners and some tricky curves which really challenge the limits of the car, especially that last chicane, as Nick Haikalis demonstrated on the penultimate lap of the race.
Qualifying server now online.
Yeah, as Nick Haikalis demonstrated, if you take a different line than you're used to and you hit a curve in a way you're not really prepared for, it's gonna spit you off into the wall or just spin you out there, and you have to be really careful, and you need a lot of practice with that chicane in particular to know how to properly approach it and gain the most time out of it.
Absolutely, but now we are in qualifying, and I'm just gonna bring the screen up for our wonderful co-commentator now, as the countdown's underway. But of course, we can't leave until green, so that means once we're on that 15-minute mark, cars will be allowed to leave the pit lane, and then we'll have qualifying. Now, of course, there is a bit of a difference with qualifying this time around. We have 15 minutes for all the drivers to set their times, but then we go into a top 5 Super Pole. Do you want to explain how that works, Sarah?
Yeah, so Super Pole is a new format added for this season of AFR, which means that after the 15-minute qualifying, which we have now shortened to give some time and not make it take ages to complete qualifying. After the 15 minutes, the top 5 from that first session, which in the rulebook is referred to as Q1, the top 5 go into the Super Bowl session, where it's basically one-shot qualifying, where P5 sets from the Q1 session goes and sets a lap, then P4, P3, P2, and P1, and at the end, the order for the top 5 will get reshuffled. In terms of points, the points are still awarded for the first session.
Qualifying is now started. Qualifying has now started.
So the points are awarded for the first session, the one we're watching right now. So it still gives an incentive to push for pole here. But really, the Super Bowl is a challenge of how well can you do with one flying lap, and it puts pressure on you as a driver. And as we saw in the very first round of the season, it also puts pressure on you in terms of not invalidating the lap, because in that first session we were worried that everyone was gonna invalidate the lap. We saw P5, P4, and P3 invalidate their lap, which pretty much took all pressure off the top two, which in that session were Andy Park and Iceman Stoppa. And I imagine that we'll see just about the same top two right here.
For some odd reason, I have been looking at the calendar for the past couple of minutes there, so I do apologise, but we haven't missed any flying laps so far. I was wondering what that was just on my screen, why it was stuck on calendar, but again, very sorry there. Still trying to get used to being back at this. For some odd reason, I'm a bit out of shape. But anyway, that should all be fixed in a couple of moments. So I do apologise again, but now we're going to start looking at Johan Korolchak for the first flying lap. We're going to go on board with the French driver. Stopper there, of course, coming in with a few times. Those are just outlap times. Those should not be representative. We're going through Grand Curve now. Now we go down the straightaway, which separates Grand Curve to Adelaide. A tight right-hander here. Go on to the left-hand side of the final part of the straight. Set yourself up for this tight right-hander. Brake at around the 100-meter board. Meet that apex. Maybe go a bit wide just for the line on the exit. And that was second gear for Johan. Now, the next corner, it is a flat right and left. This is named Imola. Of course, I don't think it shares any relation to the track. Now, this long left-hander is named 180 degrees for the fact it is literally 180 degrees. There you go, all said and done. No drama there for Johan so far. And now we approach this other flat right-left. No, right-left. This one's called Imola. The previous one was called Nürburgring. And now we go into Chateau through here. This medium to slow speed right-hander, and Johan gets it wrong. That is the end of that lap for that driver. Trying to see who's gone ahead of him, but having no success thus far. Callis has just set an outlap time, and it looks to be Stopper who's going to be next across the line. Final couple of corners through here, funny chicane, and here we go to the start-finish line. Stopper approaches, and that is a 1:17.194. with the best time being a high 1:16, as Gonzalez now setting a time of 1:18.1. Park shouldn't be too far away. In fact, there he is, and that is to second place, but just under 4/10 of a second behind.
I imagine both Icebrand and Andy Park are going to go faster than this, considering that even in the sprint race, the fastest lap was a high 1:16 from Andy Park, I believe. So I know they still have more in the tank, and they probably just set this as a banker lap. And look at that, and it's already 2 tenths up on his best time in the first sector. And yeah, I think my predictions are that the fastest lap is going to be a 1:16.6.
I would say so, as Gonzalez has made a mistake, and that is just on the straight, I think, separating Nürburgring to 180 or vice versa. It's very hard to tell with certain cameras here, but anyway, Icebrand Stopper improving through sectors 1 and 2 as well. We'll cut to Andy Park and see what he's up to, but at the moment, Stopper through the final few corners now, and oh, that's wide there, and that's what Sarah was talking about, and that is not an improvement there, thanks to the final couple of corners, and Andy Park not too far behind now. Korolchak up to second there, 1:17.3. And remember, the top 5 go through to Super Pole, but now Andy to the line. That's pole position, a 1:17.053 for now. Remember, we still have 10.5 minutes just over to go. Only drivers not to set a time at the moment are Juniper Makova and Victor Bernat. So here we go. Bernat is just approaching Adelaide now with one car ahead of him. Don't know about traffic rules here, but Makova, I don't know. Are they on an outlap or a flyer as well? They do get very close to that wall there, Sarah.
Yeah, they're demonstrating exactly what I said. If you attack those curves in a wrong way, if your underfloor hits particularly the second curve, it's gonna bulk you into the air and force you wide, as we see Victor Bernat drifting a little bit through that corner. But I imagine his car is set up to handle that, and that's really the one thing I'm really excited for Super Bowl, is I want to look at how they drive and how they've set up their car, because I I know particularly from my teammates who I've driven with, I know how they've set up their car and how I like to set up my car. I always like my car quite stiff to have a very defined limit to where you can drive. I've never been too fond of cars which could slide out like that and still keep going forward, because it's difficult to really feel where the limit is. But I know people like Juniper Makova and Victor Bernat, as we saw, do do not really mind those characteristics, and that's the one thing we're gonna really get to see in Super Bowl if we watch on board, because we'll get to see the exact differences between all the cars, all the drivers, and how they tackle this track.
And we can't wait for Super Bowl, of course. At the moment, that is from 1st to 5th. So Haikalas, Gonzalez, Korolchak, Stopper, and Park will be in there. But of course, we need to wait for representative times from Bernat and Makova, because they still could be in this and they could knock either driver out of contention. We do honestly predict that Park, Stopper, and Korolchak will be part of the session. I don't think that's under any dispute, but it's just going to be those two positions, as Stopper is disqualified for a teleport.
Yeah, I saw his name go red on the leaderboard, which means that he had a crash, and my best guess is that he got stuck in a wall and could not get out, which pretty much forces him to teleport back to the pits, and that means he's DNF from the session and will not improve his lap time. But fortunately for him, I think he set a good enough time to stay in that Super Pole session, but he will not benefit from the points for pole anymore, as he's out of the session. And now Andy Park's gotten even closer to the benchmark, as we were talking about it, to the benchmark that I predicted, which was 1:16.6. He's only a tenth off that lap time.
Absolutely, as now Juniper is approaching the line now. That's 4th place, and that knocks Haikalas out of Super Pole. A 1:17.3 from the American driver, and that is just under 7/10 to pole position there. Stopper, and we're gonna, well, for Stopper's situation, well, we're gonna have to wait and see what Bernat can do. Bernat is just coming out of the 180 degrees now, approaching the right and left of Imola. Then, of course, you go through to Chateau. So let's see what he can do. Just coming through here, looking drama-free so far. Let's go on board with the Spanish driver, but very wide there through Chateau. Lock up on the front right, and that sent him wide out of qualification for the Apex. Under 7 minutes to go in qualifying. Victor does have time to improve. Just approaching the final couple of corners now. Very slow through here. It must feel like an edge to go through. Bounces across the curve. And of course, again, close to that outside wall, but no drama there. That's 5th place, and that knocks Gonzalez out of Super Bowl. That's a 1:17.4. And now Victor in an, well, I wouldn't say comfortable position, but a better position than he was in before, Sarah.
Absolutely, and it's really fun to see these positions changing, because now it's even more important to be in the top 5, and we're not just looking at pole, which seems to be comfortably held by Andy Park. I don't imagine anyone else who is on track beating that, because as we saw earlier, Icebrand has DNF from the session, so he will not be able to challenge for that time just yet. But that also makes it quite interesting to see how he will perform in Super Bowl, where he gets one lap to correct his mistakes and improve his starting position. And I think that's gonna be just about the first time that we really get to see anyone really with a good shot of making something happen in Super Bowl, because until now it's honestly been just a reinstating of the same order as before.
Extremely boring.
Thank you. I tried to say nicely, okay? just trying to make the stream excited, but yeah, I think today is gonna be a little bit more fun.
Let's hope so. Haikalas and Gonzalez with a mistake there. I think they are in separate portions of the track, but yeah, no. I think that's the Arrow Motorsport car of Gonzalez, but then again, I could be wrong. I didn't really fully look into the liveries, but yeah, Gonzalez in the wall like Victor was in the sprint race. There's Haikalas skipping the chicane altogether. I wonder...
Gonzalez is Revolution 9, I think.
Revolution 9, I do apologize. But yeah,
Actually, I'm not sure anymore because they've changed their colors and now it's more confusing than ever. Because I know orange used to be a more of a Revolution 9 color, but they are sister teams, so they pretty much carry the same sponsors and stuff. And I think Gonzalez is not moving, so I wonder if he's stuck in the gravel.
I wonder if he's stuck in the wall full stop, because remember, that's where Victor retired last time. Well, in the sprint, we saw just like, what feels like about 12 or 13 minutes ago. And now, good chat there, just having a bit of an error through Chateau there. By the way, Charlie says hello in chat, who's also known as Silverbird. And there you go, Tuki Gonzalez disqualified for teleporting, so he will not be in Super Bowl. But at the moment, it's now very much looking like it is Park, Korolchak, Stopper Bakova, and Bernat through to Super Bowl as things stand right now.
And I know Tuki Gonzalez in particular will be disappointed with that crash because I think he had more pace in the locker. He's usually just about there or thereabouts with like less than a second off the pace, and I think he could have possibly challenged for maybe a P6 at the minimum. But yeah, that's sometimes just how it goes, and you need to be careful in this qualifying where, unlike maybe some other leagues which the drivers might be used to, they are not allowed to teleport back to the pits. They have to physically drive over there and save some fuel to be able to do that. As we see Juniper Makova jump into P3, pushing Stoppa out of the top 3, and that means Stoppa will not gain any points from this qualifying session, and that might prove important in a championship as close as this, with rivals who are so closely matched on pace. You can never bet on one or the other before the weekend.
I know, and it was absolutely great to see their championship fight go to the final draw last season as well. I can't wait to see how this season progresses. Of course, after the first 3 rounds, Stopper is leading the way by just by 10 points. Will have increased that lead a bit thanks to the sprint race. But now, when it comes to the feature, at the moment, Park has pole position, will get the additional points they need, and at the moment will bring that gap by a few points, I would imagine. Is it 3 points for pole position?
Yes, it's 3, 2, and 1 for the top 3.
Thank you very much. So yes, 3 extra points go to the swing of Andy here. And at the moment, the only drivers on flyers as of right now is Berta, Ikalis, Anno, and forgive me if I get this wrong, but Kukuvinos as of right now. Even Park has decided to come out on an extra lap here. So I don't know. Does Park? Do you feel like Park really needs to set some additional pace, or do you think they're just on another practice run?
I don't think he needs to, but he's got absolutely nothing to lose, so I don't see a reason why not. I think on this lap he can afford to push as much as possible because this is frankly not real life. If he crashes out here, he's not going to lose the car for the rest of the day.
I mean, you do make a good point there as well. At the moment, we're watching Kai Callis try and improve on his lap time. He needs to find 7 tenths and 200ths to get, 400ths in reality, to get himself into Super Bowl. But at the moment, that is not looking very likely. With 1.5 minutes to go, just under, it's looking more like that this is all but secure for Victor Bernat. Of course, remember, there'll be a 10-minute qualifying session. High Callis does a couple of personal bests through sectors 2 and 3, but no improvement in the lap time nor the position. So one last lap for High Callis to come through and prove himself for Super Bowl, but again, I don't really see that happening, to be honest, as things stand right now. Anno and Kukovinos as well tried to set more laps there just to get some sort of improvement. Anno needs to find just under 6 tenths of a second to improve on Gonzalez, who of course has retired thanks to crashing into the wall on the exit of Nürburgring. Looks like he might have just had a snap similar to what Victor Bernat had in the sprint. And well, it looks like one of those walls that the drivers will have to watch out for when we do come to the feature race. Final couple of corners for Anno now will be one of the first to set. Oh, and he's gone flying, as Sarah was talking about there. That's one of the things that can happen. And Anno is disqualified almost immediately. Kololchak to the line, down on his personal best, but he's got another lap. He's just gone to the line with just under 10 seconds to go. I'll leave that any closer, I dare you. But now, qualifying is complete, so there we go. High Callus is on a lap right now. Does he improve? No, not really. High Callus is, well, yeah, no, that's it for High Callus, I should think. Yeah, the checkered flag.
He's not going to be allowed to complete his next lap, and if he does, he's going to get knocked back down to P6 by our lovely race director who is keeping an eye on things.
Very much. So there you go. That Super Pole is all but confirmed. It is Victor Bernat, Stopper, Bakova, Karolchak, and Park. And from the points there, Park takes 3, Karolchak takes 2, and Bakova will get an additional 1. Bernat comes across the line now. No improvement for him, so he will be happy with 5th place there. 5 thousandths away from the Stopper there, as Bakova comes across the line.
And that's qualifying over. Top 5 drivers, Andy Park, Johan, Juniper, Icebrand, and Victor. You guys have made it through to Super Pole. The rest, if you can just sit out the next session, please.
And there's confirmation from the race director of your top 5 there. So, of course, it's a 10-minute qualifying session. Now, how does the Super Pole session work? Just kind of give us a run through on that. You did so earlier on. But just like, you know, is it 1 lap or is it several laps under a 10-minute distance?
Oh, we see drivers flying into the wall.
Where are you getting 10 minutes from?
Apparently, I'm getting 10 minutes from something made up, but that's just what I've seen in the rulebook.
Yeah, so basically, in Super Bowl, the drivers will line up at the end of the pit lane, going from P5 to P1.
Sorry, top 5 drivers, Super Pole session now starting.
Yeah, so the top 5 drivers will line up at the end of the pit lane in order from P5 to P1, and P5 will go out, set a lap, and as soon as they end their one single flying lap to set their only opportunity to set a lap time, the next driver will start their lap. So they will go one after each other and set one single flying lap to determine the order amongst them.
Thank you very much. So it's one single lap in one-shot qualifying. I take it I need to rejoin the server. Anyone confirm that?
Affirmative.
Alright, so let me just do that very quickly. We'll just be on a very quick... just join again. But otherwise, how is Super Pole one of your favourite additions to this season, Sarah? Because you've really spoken quite fondly about how this season, in general, is really, really exciting. Do you think that the addition of Super Pole was a great idea?
You know, in theory, it should be a great idea, and I do still expect today to prove that. But in the previous races that we've watched, Nick has some strong opinions about that, which we've seen, and I'm not gonna echo them. But yeah, it's not proven to be as unpredictable as really expected. But I do think it's still quite thrilling for the drivers. But
Victor, whenever you're ready, you can start your outlap.
Also, please stream your screen.
Please, yeah, share my screen. Will do. We're not going to miss much. Well, you haven't missed much yet, so they shouldn't miss anything at all now. Victor has been allowed to start his outlap. Not seeing any movement in the pit lane. So we are. And there you go. Victor is now getting underway, and his outlap begins. Instructions will come from the race director when drivers are allowed to come out. But here we go, 5th place in the usual qualifying format, and now Victor will be the first to get underway. Sarah, where do you think Victor will come out at?
You know, I think there's always an opportunity, because especially on this track with the last chicane, I think there's potential for any driver to really make a mistake at this
just
track.
for the rest of the rows, I will let you know when the car ahead is on the back straight, so you can start getting ready, and then you can go once they pass you.
Yeah, as we've seen with the drivers in both the sprint race and qualifying, there's plenty of room for mistakes on this track, and I think that might really inspire a reshuffle of the order here. I think Victor probably, I don't think he has the pace on pole here, but I think he might get up
ready.
to
Victor will be passing you in about 10 seconds.
If he sets a good lap and it stays valid, because I have a slight feeling that someone might invalidate here.
Absolutely, of course, like we've said before, the track limits are fairly close. It is a tight track in of its own. Icebrand has been allowed out. Of course, Icebrand in 4th position after teleporting into the pits due to damage of some kind. But now Victor will get us underway for his one and only lap in the Super Pole session. He has just gone through Grand Curve now, and he is approaching Adelaide after going through this King.
If you can speed it up, please, mate.
Icebrand has been told to speed up by the race director, so evidently going a bit slow for Nick's liking here. But Victor Bernat through Adelaide now, and is going to be approaching the right and left of what should be called Nürburgring here. So they go approaching that now flat, not making the same mistake he did in the sprint race, not snapping it into the wall through 180 degrees there. Get as close to the gravel as you dare without losing as much momentum. And now you approach what is the right and left of Imola now, as Bernat is approaching, goes through there, no problem at all, and now approaching Chateau. No problems through there so far. This is looking like a very good lap from the Spanish driver as he approaches the final couple of turns now. This double right-handed complex here, slow to medium speed corners. Here we go, Victor Bernat will be the first to cross the line, obviously, and there we go, Victor Bernat sets a time that's a 1:17.3 as
And
now.
Juniper, Icebrand's on the back straight if you want to just wait for a bit.
There you go.
Importantly though, we saw Bernat make a mistake in the final chicane. He lost some time there as he went over the second curb on the left, which will bounce you into the air, and he was lucky to keep it out of the wall and finish the lap. But I think he lost at least a few tenths in that final chicane.
As now Juniper Makova is out on the track. Icebrand Stopper, championship contender. Can we get some onboard cams, says Pugmaster? Certainly in a little bit. We are just currently observing the final few runs here in Magny Cours there. Through Adelaide, Stopper comes through. So now we'll go on board from Adelaide into what is Nürburgring, the right and left through here. And looking, it should be flat through here easily for Stopper. It certainly is. And then approaching 180 now into the apex. And there you go, get as close to the gravel as you can. Now, of course, where Victor made his mistake was the final couple of turns, and I think Stopper will be eyeing those as well. Stopper wasn't able to get into the top 3, so no additional points from qualifying for the driver.
And Johan, you're going to start getting ready.
There you go, another one being told to get ready. Johan Korolchak will be the next on a flyer. And now through the final couple of turns now, we approach this right and left-handed complex. Final chicane there, bouncing through. That looked very good from the Icebrand there. That is a 1:16.6.
And that is a gauntlet set for Andy Park and everyone else to try to beat.
Johan, go ahead.
I was gonna mention how, because of Icebrand's qualifying.
Stop moving while you're up.
Oh no! Andy is out the pits! And will that mean disqualification?
I don't think it will mean disqualification, but it is not meant. He's not meant to be on track right now due to the procedures. But yes, as I was gonna say, because of Icebrand's qualifying, Andy will have his benchmark for the session, and he will know what time to beat and how fast he really needs to go to reclaim pole position. And in a way, that sort of puts more pressure on Icebrand because he does not know what he needs to do. He just goes as fast as possible, and he seems to have put it all on the line and sets a faster time than Andy set in the initial qualifying session.
I can't wait for this to go into Andy Park's court. We are in for a very, very exciting end to the one-shot 5-position Super Bowl thing. I really didn't do well there with names there. But anyway, through the final chicane goes Juniper Makova. And what is the time gonna be? That's a 1:17.1, so that's second place, as Johan is gonna be next across the line.
Yeah, Johan, Juniper Makova's teammate. I'm interested to see who comes out on top between those two, because so far it seemed to be Johan just a bit ahead of Jennifer Makova, and he just needs to set a clean lap at his home track. Let's remember, it is his home race, and surely a race he will want to do well at. So I'm interested to see how he puts this lap together. So far, we've seen at this final chicane, everyone has so far hit the second curve. Icebrand notably hit it as little as possible, or at least less than everyone else. So I wonder how Johan and Andy Parker are gonna approach that, because in my experience, you want to avoid that as much as possible and just get a real slingshot out of that corner.
Absolutely, but there we go. What could Korolchak do? He goes through Imola now, right and left, approaching the Chateau corner. Tight right-hander through here, very slow speed corner. Gotta be careful with your right foot there. Going low in the revs, and Anno actually saying in the chat, final chicane is the devil, and Johan is approaching that now, and then it will be off to Andy Park to set the final representative time in this Super Bowl session. Korolchak approaching the start-finish line now. That is second place at a 1:69, and he goes to second place. Great lap from the Frenchman, but not enough for pole. But now it's all to the one behind Icebrand Stopper coming into this afternoon's race. It is all down to Andy Park. Sarah, you can take it away.
This will be the highest pressure lap of the entire weekend for Andy Park, because he now has to reclaim pole position against someone who's just set a lap that was faster than his pole position lap in the first qualifying session. He spots the braking point well, goes a little bit deep, cuts back, and does a very, very good job getting on the power, slides to the rear now a little bit, but he's perfectly on the limit. And so far it seems like a very tight lap for him. Avoids the curb on the right to not spin him into the wall. Spots the braking right here. This is a long corner which really challenges you, your rear tires, where you want to kick the rear end out just to get it rotated. Otherwise, you just understeer, and it takes ages to get through that corner. But he does it well. Goes over the left curve here to set himself up as well as he can into the turn, and he avoids the inside curve, gets very good rotation. And now I'm interested to see how he does in the final combos of corners, which will make or break his lap, really. He goes a little bit wide in the first right-hander and goes over the curb, and that's not going to be pole position. Is it going to be P2?
Yes, it is.
It is P2. But
and over race start will be soon.
And he'll be kicking himself over that final chicane, because that is very tricky, and as I said, you need to be very precise. And I think just looking at the gap, he was on course for pole position, and I would need confirmation from him for that. But that really shows how much that last corner can decide things.
Absolutely there, but a great lap, well, until the very end from Andy Park, but he is right alongside his championship rival, Icebrand Stopper. Now we move on to the race, which is 125 kilometers or 40 minutes, whichever one comes first. Now we don't have any safety cars, so we will be resorting to full course yellows when the time comes. I will just get into the server very quickly to
and race server online, 3-minute join time.
There we go. So we've got confirmation from the race director now. 3 minutes left to join the race server, and then we will have 125 kilometers in the race. So, Sarah, with Icebrand Stopper getting that positional gain, of course, as we saw in the sprint race, it's very important. But now with the pit stops, there's an extra element added onto that. Who do you think is taking it away this week?
It's difficult to say, because I feel like so far Andy's been the one making less mistakes, as we saw on the evidence of the qualifying session, where Icebrand pushed just a little bit too hard and beached himself in the wall. I think he even said that he blew up his engine in that incident, which is why he had to teleport back to the pits. So I think Andy, knowing him, he's gonna be more consistent. I think he's gonna give himself a good shot. But Icebrand importantly has the track position, and as we saw right now, he even has the raw pace. So I think they're gonna be neck and neck the entire race, provided none of them pins themselves out of it.
But now we're going to be, well, we could go through the starting grid one last time before things get underway. So,
Stream, by the way.
apparently Streamer is on pole position. It's followed by Stopper, who is actually on pole position on the grid in second. And it's Andy Park in third place. Korolchak currently lies. That would be third place, I think. Then Makova in fourth. Victor Burnett rounds out the top five. But top part Superpole. Then it's Haikalis in sixth position, followed by Gonzalez in seventh, and then Anno rounding out the top eight. Some haven't yet to join the grid, so of course we'll see them in just a few moments. Stopper and Park already there though. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting into the first turn. Hoping everybody gets away cleanly. As of
Could you please stream to Discord? That's what I was trying to get you to do.
No problem at all. Streaming to Discord is underway now, and we will have, well, we're going to have 29 laps of racing as of now, but of course it's 125 kilometers. Comes first, but anyway, here we go. Surely not too much longer before we are going to decide. Best of luck to all the drivers, says the admin in the YouTube chat, of course. And we will soon be underway in at any moment now. We have a perfect view of the lights, and here we go. The lights illuminate, which means we have just under 10 seconds to go. I think that is, but here we go. 3, 4, 5, 6 red lights on your screen. It's going, Magny Cours, and there you go. That Stopper off to a great start, but Andy Parker's trying to be equal to it. We go down into turn 1, and Korolchak is trying to take advantage of it. Park round and coming back. What was the inside becomes the outside. Park, I think, has just about got the move done. Uses some push to pass. They both do, and that is Park to the lead of the race. What a move off the start, but can he hold it? From Stopper behind. There's Korolchak in there as well. They go side by side into Adelaide. Park and Stopper still side by side, and it's in the end Stopper that lost out, so Park takes the lead off the start, Sarah.
And that is very important for the rest of the race, because it's so difficult to overtake here. You want to get the track position at any opportunity you get, and he gets it done right off the restart. He got a fantastic getaway. It's even surprising to me, because I know he gets very good launches, but that was a launch of his lifetime, and now he's in P1 and he's going to be running away and giving third here to Iceman Slava. And in a train like this, it's going to make him potentially vulnerable to the cars behind. But I know the two of them have very good pace, so I think they're eventually going to run away. But that was a very, very important move at the very first opportunity. Great driving by Andy Park.
Absolutely there, and already he's got over half a second on his championship rival, but now we are looking at Makova and Korolchak, both of them very close together. At the moment, Johan Korolchak driving in his home Grand Prix. Both the top two using their push to pass already. A bit early if you ask me. You only get 10 of those throughout a race, so you might want to start saving sooner rather than later. And now, well, Makova is defending from, I thought it was Gonzalez there, but it was actually Victor Burnett. And Victor Burnett up into fourth place there. Looked rather academic, all things considered. And now Victor Burnett can look at Johan Korolchak there, who is currently third place. But yes, even as remarked in chat, what an exciting start and what a move from Andy Park. The most important move of his season, I would think. Remember, he did not finish last time out in drama, and so he is looking to really redeem himself through these sprints and features this afternoon.
I know we'll hate you for how you pronounce Harama, by the way. And the other Spanish people as well. The way you pronounce Harama, I think some Spanish people are gonna get quite offended by that, but let's keep in mind you're British, so you're excused. But anyways, I want you to pay attention to the fact that both Andy Park and Stoppa have used push to pass in each of the first 2 laps so far, and it really shows that they are both solely focused on each other. They're not worried about anyone else, because of course you often want to save push to pass for later stages just to be sure you can you have it for more important situations, but they are solely focused on first of all, Stoppa is solely focused on overtaking, as we see Bernat miss his braking point and go wide, as we see his teammate do pretty much the same, and Makova regains the position that she lost to Kiki Gonzalez there. But yeah, as I was saying, Stoppa is focused on just trying to get past Andy at any opportunity he gets, and ideally as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Park is using the push the pass to not allow that to happen, and they're gonna run out of push to passes very soon. Meanwhile, the rest of the field will save them up. But as I said, I don't think they're very worried about anyone else right now, because look at the gap. They're already 2.5 seconds ahead.
Insane pace from the top two. It looks like it will be an exciting championship between those two. Of course, we've already had 3 excellent races beforehand. Of course, I do apologise to everybody in Spain who I have offended with my pronunciation. Callis and Anno have swapped positions as well. Callis up into 7th there. Greek driver making a position. And then there's Kukuvoinos trying to get onto the back of that as well. Both Callis and Kukuvoinos even are part of the Nokiolina racing team, who are of course racing the Wazoo racing team. Anno's teammate Captain Coxey not making an appearance this week, but here we go. Anno and Nikiolina teammates. Whoa, there Callis having to back out of that for one reason or another, catches Anno completely off guard, and all of a sudden now that is both those teams, that's both those drivers even in the same team up on Wazoo Racing, and that is great for their constructors because they already have a 3-point advantage over Wazoo, and now it's going to be increased even more. So there we go. Anno loses a place there. Callis and Kukunovinos up to 7th.
There was an interesting thing that I noticed during that battle, and that was that Anno was deploying push to pass, and yet Kukuvinos was still gaining on him on the straight. So I wonder if Kukuvinos might be running a slightly lower downforce setup compared to Anno, who probably is, I would assume, he's running like 23.9 wings, which is about the highest you will ever go. As we see Stoppa make a mistake at the final chicane, spinning out, probably hitting the curb a little bit, but importantly stays in the race. But that's a massive moment in the championship, and he's now going to lose even more positions to Nick Callis, and that's not at all where he's gonna where he wants to be, as he's now having trouble with the rear tires, which will be hot after that spin, and as well with the increased tire wear, it's gonna damage them even more than it ever would in previous seasons. And now he's losing even one more position, and he's pretty much at the very back of the field now.
Anno making a pit stop there. I don't know if he had incurred some sort of damage or was on tyre wear. Of course, remember, tyre wear is increased to allow more strategy to be involved in the races. Just while I was watching all of that as well, Bernat has been getting... Oh, a stopper again has made a mistake. Oh, it's through where we've seen drivers disqualified, and it's that stopper coming to a stop. It is. I think his engine might have blown up.
I think he's blown up his engine as well. Yes, yep, he's out of the race.
And what happened to Park last week turns on stopper this week. Andy Park has a free go and increasing his lead. Oh, well, taking the lead and increasing it, I should say. Oh my word, what a turn of events in the championship. And Andy Park there was down 2 seconds, so I don't know if he had a bit of a moment.
He must have made a mistake on that lap as well, but it's now very important for him just to stay in this race, to keep driving his pace and not make any mistakes, because this is a prime opportunity for his championship, and he pretty much gets everything that he lost last time out. He now gets back in a sudden turn of events through Icebrand making a mistake, as I alluded to before the very start of the race, that Andy's just consistent, and Icebrand seemed a little bit shaky, though fast, but a little bit shaky today so far, and that proves to bite him at the very worst moment, where he makes a mistake in the last chicane, spins, damages his tires, and with those damaged and overheated tires, he spins at the very place where he DNF'd in qualifying, and DNF's this time in the race as well.
And just to give you a little bit of live championship standings from Nick himself, our race director, P1 Andy on 72 points, and then P2 Icebrand Stopper with 61. So Andy now takes the lead of the championship and increases it over a point to his deficit going into this afternoon. He was at a 10-point deficit to Stopper, and now he'll have an 11-point lead going into the race in the next couple of weeks' time. But at the moment, Victor Bernat looking to take advantage of Stopper's DNF and is currently in 3rd place. And Makova would love to be up there as well, but unfortunately not quite having the pace here at the French circuit. But at the moment now, do you think either Victor or Karel Shakhtar could catch Andy Park, or is Andy just in a league of his own, so to speak?
I think there still might be a slight off chance that Andy makes a mistake because we saw it on the very lap that Icebrand crashed. That Andy, at the very end of the lap, lost 2 seconds in the chicane, so I think he may have had a very shaky run through there. And, you know, with the increased tire wear as well, it's gonna only get worse and worse and more difficult because I think in this car, and on this track as well in particular, the rear tires are gonna get damaged more than the front tires, and that's gonna be emphasized and make it even more difficult to take these corners. So I wouldn't count out anything yet because there's still 21 laps left of this race, 22 even, sorry, and there's anything can happen still.
Absolutely, and we still have 22 laps to go. Oh, Iceberg is... Oh, hang on. Another correction coming in from our race director here as we are seeing Victor get close to Karel Chapman again. Not quite close enough to have it go into Adelaide. I think he is just keeping him at arm's length for now. But Anno's made a mistake there. I'm trying to figure out where that is. And that was one... Oh, well, that was certainly a rejoin and a half. Of course, no one around him. So that was actually into Chateau there. Of course, that's just towards the end of his lap. But Anno having a really hard time here. In Magny Cours and unable to really take advantage, well, really get any position. He's currently stone dead last with drivers that are still running. But at the moment, right now, of course, Stopper with the DNF. Iceberg is P3 with the driver's current position. Victor would take P2 by 2 points, so he's on 63 points. So in actual fact now, Victor, if things are to stay as they are right now, 63 points. That would land in P2 with Icebrand P3 at 61. So now Victor gets himself involved in the championship really by proxy. And he could make things even better if he could get past Johan. But they are on similar times, with Johan just being a bit faster by 400ths of a second there. But of course, that's not really much in the grand scheme of things. That's very consistent from the both of them. But here we go. So with Victor now being involved in this, I mean, if he could get something together, he could go on a late charge, and that would be sort of unpredictable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and you know we've talked about Andy and Icebrand for a while, and and it's because they do have a clear edge in the in terms of pace in the championship. But Victor, let's not count him out just yet, because he's just behind them in terms of pace. He's not that far away, and importantly, he's been so consistent this season that he's kept himself within a shot and not that far away behind the championship leader, which will now be Andy Park, and quite comfortably probably gonna extend that gap a little bit to Victor Bernat. But you know, he's so consistent. Let's also remember the fact that he's a champion in a partner league, led Power Racing, where he won I believe it was the Geneta Championship. No, it was the Praga Championship, where he won the championship. And yeah, he's a very skilled driver. I've raced against him. He races very aggressively but very cleanly, and it's a joy to race against him. And I wonder if he's gonna get a chance to make a move on Johan and put himself even more firmly in the championship fight here.
Absolutely, it's going to be very exciting to see how this all ends up. Of course, we're still in early days of season 13. We're approaching the halfway point, which will be sort of marked at the next race, which is in a couple of weeks' time. But I don't know, yeah, Bernat there, I was just seeing how the dirty air was affecting him. We went on board with him throughout the previous lap, and it wasn't until he actually got to the grand curve there, which is through turn 1, and he was really struggling there, and he was just trying to find an alternative line so that he could, like, pick up any air to, like, carry him through the corner. You just saw him understeered, and it's really carried on till the end of this lap as well. Now nearly at a second of a gap there. Of course, no DRS on these cars, so nothing to like that to worry about, just the push to pass usage. And Victor Bernat, there you go, half a second there, thanks to that dirty air he caught at this corner last lap. We are now on lap number 11 out of 29, and the main headline as Anno gets a 3-second penalty for corner cutting. And, well, Anno there, with another mistake, and he's gone. He is gone. He is teleported to the pits and decides not to finish the race, as High Callus is, I think, second or third driver into the pit lane. But I also want to say Bakova has kept this at an arm's length. She is still there, 2.5 seconds. So if any of these make a mistake, she is right there to take advantage of it, and she can be on the podium, all things considered. High Callus as well, with a 3-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Things calming down a bit, Sarah. So where do we think we're going to see well, we've seen the first pit stop from High Callus, but in terms of your top three, when do you think they are pitting?
I think they're going to be pitting after the halfway point of the race, because really the halfway point of the race is the most obvious place where you would want to pit, because you're going to have equal stints across both of your sets of tires. So that, in theory, would make it the fastest strategy. But the problem is that in this league you have refueling as well. So the drivers will start with a set amount of fuel, and they will add fuel for the rest of the race during their pit stop. And that means that across the stint, their car is going to get lighter and lighter. And if you do extend your first stint by a little bit, it's gonna make it so that your car across the entire race is theoretically, on average, a lighter car, which is also going to gain you time. So what I always did, just to be safe for safety cars, which is not a danger here because we don't have a safety car at the moment, but what I always did to protect myself from safety cars is that I would always wait until my fuel runs out, and then I would pit. So I would have the best opportunity at the end of the race with my tires, where they would be fresher than anyone else's, and I would not even lose too much time in my first stint, because my car, though I would have very worn tires, my car would be lighter than anyone else's. So in that sense, it's really not a bad strategy to really extend your first stint as much as you're comfortable doing. And now, as we ride on board with Victor Bernat, I want to point out something. He's gonna be in the slipstream of the first turn, and he's gonna try an alternate line. If you're not in dirty air, you're gonna try to really take a line which challenges the downforce, but maybe this time he's not really going for it. And look at that, he's lost the slipstream just like that in the dirty air. But what you want to try in that turn to tackle the dirty air is that without dirty air, you're gonna take a very even line through the turn. You're gonna use the downforce of the car, and you're not gonna do any sharp turning. But if you're in the dirty air, you can challenge that by taking a little bit of a wider entry and then a sharper turn in, so that you have to rely on the downforce as little as possible and rely more on the mechanical grips to give you that sudden bite into the corner. And then for the rest of the corner, you're straightening up the wheel and just sitting in that slipstream and hopefully getting a better exit that way, and a good enough exit, crucially, to stay in the slipstream, because in that turn the dirty air pretty much just ruins any chance of following through that corner and following for a move into that braking zone.
Let's see as we go on board with Victor yet again. Let's see what he can do as he clambers over the curve. Final chicane there. But Anno there just coming in to chat to say sorry about rage quitting, and while he would usually see that out, it was just a bit much for him this week, and so we wish him all the best, and we hope he can come back next week stronger than ever. Now, Victor uses push to pass here within the slipstream as well. He could get close to Johan. Johan goes to the inside to defend here. Does Victor get a move done? Not quite. He's going to try to cut back through Adelaide, but can't quite carry it through. Not close enough. If they battle too hard, this brings Makova into things. But now Victor, with only 3 push to passes remaining for 16 laps as of right now. And here we go, Victor to the inside through 180, but unfortunately couldn't quite get close enough to get that done. I think he's just trying to throw Johan off to a bad exit in the corner, but Johan was equal to it. And for now, Victor has to stay behind in 3rd place, but through Imola. And Victor maybe set up a move into Chateau? No, quite. But anyway, that is all for the time being. But Johan starting to make little mistakes here and there, Sarah.
Yeah, crucially for Victor, he may not have overtaken, but he's done a very good job at unsettling Johan. First, he forced him to make a defensive shape to prevent any dive bomb down the inside, but then he also forced him to take an alternate line through a very tricky turn where you want to really use all the grip you have available, and that's allowed Juniper to catch up by a few tenths, about half a second even. And she's continuing to gain time, and now Victor is trying again to use the push to pass to get back into the slipstream, but this time Johan deploys push to pass in protection against that, and he's gonna stay ahead and probably going to comfortably keep the edge above Victor for the rest of the lap.
Absolutely there. So, basically, Anno there just coming in. He had a crash that he couldn't understand and then got track limits penalty in his own words there, a goofy way, and I guess that it was too much for him to continue. Oh, Andy Park's made a mistake! And oh no, and Makova has followed suit as well. Andy Park! Oh no, is his engine gone? He's not moving. He is not moving. And this could be bad news. If he doesn't get going soon, the race director might be forced into a false course yellow. I'm not sure. Andy Park is stationary at 180, and all of a sudden...
I think that's a hardware issue. That's a really strange place.
Move, I will need you to go back to the pits and retire from the race, unfortunately.
But also takes the lead, but Grolschak into the pits. Sorry, Sarah, there. Go ahead.
That's a really strange place to really spin to make a mistake there. I think that's a hardware issue. His steering might have gotten stuck or his controller disconnected and he was continuing steering to the left, which is my guess for what happened. And that's suddenly a really unfortunate way to end the race. It seems that he's reconnected and he's trying to get going again, but I'm not sure if his engine is still running.
That is, as they go, as there is absolute shocking chat, but oh, there we go. Andy Park's underway again. Very briefly, but this is really teetering on the edge there. Victor Burnett, by the way, now takes the lead and used push to pass on that lap. We are trying to see if Andy Park can get going, but at the moment it's not proving so. Oh no, the rear wheel's in the air, Sarah.
It would be important for his championship if he could get going and at least finish the race, because he would still gain some points on Icebrand Stopper. But if he DNS, the championship is going to stay exactly as it is right now, with him 10 points behind Icebrand Stopper, and suddenly Victor Bernat would be your championship leader.
Well, the turn of events has happened. Of course, Johan is currently on the undercut.
Yeah, about that, Victor wouldn't be leading. I did maths wrong, ignore me.
Oh, okay then. Never mind then. But Victor is... Oh my word. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, as that's a very interesting way to say, to communicate with the wall there. But Anno there is also saying that is devastating, as a hardware issue is even worse. And now Victor Bernat into the pits. We need to keep an eye on what Johan is doing. Andy looks to be underway as things stand right now, but I think Johan is going to take the lead of the Grand Prix. It's actually going to be very close. There's Victor on the exit. Johan will have the momentum. Oh, it's going to be very close. They're going to go side by side into Curva Grande. And there we go. Oh, Grand Curve, I do apologize, but there we go. Now Victor will have the slipstream. He uses his last push to pass. Victor uses his 6th or 5th. And there we go, Johan to the inside. Can he get Victor get a move done into Adelaide? It is going to be side by side. Victor on the inside, outside, and Johan on the inside even. And they're still going side by side through the next couple of corners. This is going to be interesting. Who has the edge into the ring? It's Victor! Just! Oh my word, and if Makova pits now, I wonder if she'll come out in the lead. I think he'll be very close. Oh, Victor with a mistake on the exit of the corner, and they go side by side again. Now they're going to approach Imola. Victor isn't giving Johan a lot of room here, and Johan doesn't care. He's through, but now Victor has the momentum on the exit. But through Chateau, it's Johan there. What a lap that was.
Victor has a better exit. Johan had a bad exit, he had a little slide, and now Victor has the slipstream, and he's gonna maybe think about a move. He signals a move, try to scare Johan off the racing line, but he's not gonna budge, and he's now firmly back into the lead of the race after Victor had a perfect chance. And Victor makes his mistake. He spun into the wall, and that's gonna be damage for him as well.
Victor makes a mistake through the final chicane in desperation to try and catch up, and now Juniper Makova might have a chance if she goes into the pits this lap and takes advantage of what's happened behind her. She is still gaining time on Johan, so I just wonder if those tyres, thanks to, well, no, them being cool on the exit, this is one of the most exciting races in a while, says Charlie. And there you go, Gonzalez as well, up into 4th, but after everything, and Andy Park is a lap down and currently in the pits, but Makova, if she's in the pits, whoa, bit of a squiggle there on the exit of Chateau, but surely this is her time to pit now, wouldn't you think, Sarah?
I think so, but it doesn't really matter. She now has a comfortable gap and is going to regain
Oh,
P3 as she gets 3 seconds for speeding. But if she has enough of a gap to Victor, which she might eventually, she might be able to mitigate that disadvantage of the 3-second penalty. But let's see where she comes out. I think Johan is gonna reclaim the lead, yes, comfortably. But now where is she gonna come out in relation to Victor Bernat? Because he's now coming through the first corner as she's on the pit exit, and they're gonna be side by side, I think.
side by side again, and well, no, not quite. Juniper just ahead, but of course this is very similar to what Victor faced a couple of laps ago. He's got no push to pass, remember, he's used all of it, so he has got absolutely nothing. Makova with 7, Victor with none, and that's going to easily be Makova's position, but a bit of a mistake into Adelaide there is going to leave her a little vulnerable on the exit, but Victor not close enough there, Sarah.
Yeah, as you said, it's a comfortable position for her, but she still makes a mistake and goes a little bit wide. And here, Victor takes a very different line to Juniper Bakova. Maybe not expecting Juniper to take that line. And I think Juniper is struggling a little bit to get used to the extra grip she now has, and she's taking it a little bit careful, maybe over pushing a little bit, trying to get away from Victor, because that must be an intimidating sight to see someone as fast as Victor right behind you. And I think Victor's going to try even harder to scare her off. Signals to move to the inside, but once again she does not budge. And let's see if they survive the chicane. They both do survive the chicane. And now I think Juniper can breathe a little bit and use her push to passes to get away and to get a 3-second gap to mitigate the penalty.
Of course, yes, we do need to remember that. Flipping heck. English is hard, people. But at the moment, of course, Juniper with a 3-second penalty thanks to a pit lane. Well, thanks to speeding in the pits there. So 3 seconds will be added on to her time come the end of the race. Needs to try and get this 3-second gap to Victor, or else it's game over for 2nd place. But still a good result would be 3rd place. I don't see Gonzalez making 8 seconds in the next 10 laps that we have to go. But in terms of the leading, I think this is going to be comfortably Johans as Andy Park with the fastest lap of 1:69.83 for one of our championship contenders who's a lap down, and I don't think we expected this going into the afternoon proceedings, Sarah.
Yeah, definitely not expected, but all things considered, Andy is doing what he needs to do. He needs to get any point he can, and especially in a race like this where his rival in the race DNF'd, and now any point he gains he's gonna gain on Icebrand Stoppa in the championship. I don't think he's not gonna retake the championship lead today. Well, maybe it's gonna be tied because of qualifying, but I don't think even that's gonna happen. Actually, wait, he might be tied. Something around that. I've made, I have bad experiences with trying to calculate points on the spot, so I'm just gonna shut up. But he needs to get.
Sarah, I've sent you the points as they are after qualifying. If you want to do maths.
Well, they're giving us
Okay,
some
he's not-
responsibility.
I've given up on that.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna retake the lead of the championship, but he needs to get any point he can on Icebrand Stoppa, and he's doing well in just trying to finish the race, make it to the end, and really what he's gonna focus on above all is trying to get that fastest lap point, because that's really all he can really do right now. Because anything else that he's gonna gain from this race relies solely on him finishing the race first of all, and someone else not finishing potentially.
Absolutely. And now Andy, well, of course, as we've already talked about Andy Park's bad luck, we think it was a hardware issue, but of course that is unconfirmed. I'm sure Sarah will do here investigative journalism once the proceedings have come to an end. Makova there getting the 3/10 advantage over Victor on that lap. Of course, she has 7 push-to-passes in tow and can start using them from the next lap onwards. 8 to go here in Magny Cours. It has been an entertaining race so far. I nearly said Grand Prix there, but ultimately, one with many headlines and turning points. Iceburn Stopper retiring. Then Anno also retiring after getting annoyed with track limits and the way he crashed earlier on. Of course, Iceburn Stopper, DNF, well, thanks to here, he made a contact with the wall, which blew up his engine, and that was the end of his race. And there you go, Andy Park again just fighting for fastest up with a 1:16.925 there for at the moment second place driver in the standings. But at the moment now it's a very there is a battle here for timing gaps. Victor Bernat needs to stay within a 3-second window in order to take second place away from Juniper Makova, who of course was done for speeding in the pit lane, and she has that added on to her time at the end of the race, so needs to try and get a gap moving here, and she can start using her push to pass from this lap onward. Personal best from both drivers, but Makova a 10th faster, or 10th and a half, just under faster than the driver behind. And now I am sure we will see her first use a push to pass, and there it is. That counter goes from 7 to 6, and a 1-second bubble is broken and will ever increase. And Victor, I think he's going to be regretting using his push to pass so early in the race, fighting Johan. It's come to nothing, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that's really the risk you take when you try to fight a driver and try to overtake them using your push to pass, because really that push to pass is free time in the end. If you're gonna use it in clear air, you're gonna just build a gap, and that gap can be so much more important than a track position sometimes. But on this track it's quite understandable because it's very difficult to overtake, and before his mistake Victor was fighting for the lead, and that would, to correct Nikodem, that would give him the championship lead if he managed to win this race, because that would be 20 points gained in the standings, and that would put him a few points ahead of Icebrand Sopa, who is not gaining anything from this race. But yeah, the risk you take is that if you waste a push to pass and you do not overtake, that push to pass basically becomes useless, apart from really the only benefit you get from it in the end is that you have managed to waste your rival's push to pass.
Absolutely there, as Juniper again 2/10 faster than Victor that time around, so the gap is increasing but just not quite enough for her to be outside that bubble, although I do think she gains more time through sector 1, and then Victor's very strong in the 3rd sector, so it is about differences in the sector, but as it stands right now it isn't enough to break that 3-second window she needs to in order to hold on to second place. We'll see how it all goes, though. It would still be 3rd place, all things considered. I think she'll be very happy with that. But at the moment, Johan Kowalczyk has basically been untouchable. The gap is now 5.5 seconds to this group that we are observing as of right now. Andy Park as well, still setting laps out there, down in 7th, of course, needs to finish the race in order to be classified. So he will be, I'm sure he'll be in some sort of pain, thanks to that hardware issue. Of course, that isn't of his own doing. If that is what the problem is, we don't have any confirmation on that as of right now. But in terms of now that we go into the final 5 laps of the race, what has been your main takeaway from the race, Sarah?
It's been unpredictable, and I think that's really what makes these races exciting, even if there is not much racing, because the layout makes it quite difficult to have racing. It's been unpredictable, and there's been so many stories happening out on track that it's just really fun to watch and read into this, because it's not a single race, it's an entire championship of 10 rounds even happening in the season, and anything that happens, even if it's small, it can make a very big difference, as Andy makes a big difference to the fastest lap. He does a 1:16.5, and that is very, very quick. And Yeah, and really speaking of championships, we've been talking about the drivers' championship, but look at the teams' championship. It's currently a 1-2 for Sentinel Racing, who are currently third in the championship, and that is going to be absolutely massive for them. That's gonna really, I think, turn their championship hopes around and place them firmly in the fight for the championship against the two sister teams, Revolution 9 Racing and Arrow Autosport. Revolution 9 Racing being, as we the drivers right behind them, Victor Bernat and Tuki Gonzalez, uh, in third and fourth position respectively. Then it's Arrow Autosport, which is Icebrand Stoppa and let me have a look at the standings. Not sure who else is in Arrow Autosport, honestly. Oh, it's Roland Justin. So it's Icebrand Stoppa and Roland Justin in Arrow Autosport, and uh, they're gonna take a massive hit at the championship, and they're gonna fall quite a bit behind now with how the race is going, with Icebrand DNFing, Roland not turning up, and their rivals being 1, 2, 3, 4 in the race standings.
It will go well, yes, there will be a big swing to the drivers that have turned up this afternoon. Of course, I do believe that there was another race happening alongside AFR. Can't quite confirm on what that was. If anybody does know, though, do shoot me a little message in the chat, and I will have a look at that when I can go around to it. But at the moment, Victor starting to lose a bit of ground there, 2.1 seconds, which will be 3 laps to go at the line. And Makova using the push to pass when she gets to that long chicane. Oh no, Makova's made a mistake! And that is through the final chicane in very similar circumstances to what Victor Bernat did. And that is surely now 3rd place for the American driver. It's all over for Juniper in terms of 2nd place, Sarah.
It is, and especially even if she manages to somehow retake the 2nd place, she still has the 3-second penalty, and she would have been aware of that, and she was definitely trying to push to build that 3-second gap, and now it's come back to bite her, and she now has overcooked tires, and I wonder if she's gonna even take this chicane properly, as we saw Icebrand make a mistake here twice. She takes that curve on the right, and she's fine. Luckily, she makes it through, and I think she's gonna make it to the end of the race this time. But yeah, that's gonna be very frustrating. But either way, it is a big task to try to pull a 3-second gap on Victor Bernat of all people, even if you have 7 more push to passes.
Absolutely there, and unfortunately Juniper's consistency, I thought she was just going to do it. It was going to be very close, but ultimately I did think she just had the upper hand. But unfortunately now we won't ever know because of that mistake. And now she is gradually losing time to Victor, but big hand Korolchak here. He has not put a foot wrong in this race. 2 laps to go. He has done an amazing job, and he has just been consistent, and it has paid off successfully. He will have big gains in the championship once this race concludes. He will win his home race as well, Magny Cours, in his country of France. The Frenchman will be winning his home race, as we've already alluded to. Sarah, not a foot wrong from this one here.
Absolutely not. He stayed firm, very firm against any attack that Victor Bernat threw at him and anyone else. And importantly, he kept it on track. He kept it pointing in the right direction, and just kept driving consistently and setting some very good pace in the meantime as well. And even though it's really through luck that through his fortune that his rivals ahead of him, Icebrand Stoppa and Andy Park, both through for one reason or another, could not finish the race ahead of him and continue their championship battle in the lead. He's driven perfectly and benefited from it exactly as he should, as he now deploys his final push to pass on the final lap of the race. And he's really gonna enjoy this one, isn't he?
Absolutely, of course. Like we said last lap, his home race here, and now he is not too far away from getting it all done. It's the final lap here, and now he will have a big swing in the championship go his way. As for Victor as well, I don't think Johan will be enough to really bring him into contention. I'm just kind of trying to check the standings before the end of the
He'll be 3 points behind Icebrand.
3 points behind Icebrand, so it will be a big swing for him. That is a significant amount of points gained here today. It is through the Chateau Complex, and now the crowd of Mandigores will rise for their home hero. It is Johan Kowalczak coming through the final complex now, through the right-hander. Then it's just a chicane to go, takes that beautifully, and now he will come across the line to win the feature race in Mandigores. Victor will come home in the end in second place, despite a mistake earlier in the race. And oh, Victor, as soon as I say
Another
that,
mistake.
as soon as I say that, makes a mistake, but he will be okay because of Juniper's 3-second penalty, which has now served post-race. And Gonzalez will come home fourth. Well, doesn't quite have the gap to catch up to the American drivers. So that is your top three: Kowalczak, Bernat, and Makova.
Sorry, I don't know if you've noticed, but Juniper was 7 seconds behind. That means she made yet another mistake, and she'll be kicking herself for that, because seeing Victor come off there, she would have most certainly gained P2 if she had just stayed behind and benefited from that. As we see Nick Haikalis come across the line and Andy Park come across the line in front of him, but he's a lap down, so he will finish in P7, with Kukuvinos being the last person to cross the line.
And actually, Andy unlapping himself there from Kukuvinos, but of course not the overall leaders, so he will still finish one lap behind, I think he was, but then again, don't quote me on that.
And that is the race over. Top three drivers who'd like to go into for an interview, hop into interview waiting.
As now Nick gives the instructions for the top three, so we will have Kowalczak, Victor Bernat, and Juniper Makova in the interview, well, in this chat once they have all gathered up. But Sarah, what a race that was, as we just saw a car go through the gravel trap there.
Yeah, you know, it is a shame that this track, it's so difficult to overtake on this track, but it's incredible when you do see an overtake on this track, because this track, when you do get close enough and you do go side by side, it always just leads one corner into another, and it just feels like the battle never ends. And it's exciting to watch it out unfold, with as well some challenging corners with some challenging curves, provoking a lot of mistakes from the drivers, and it makes for an unpredictable race. And as we saw in the very final corner, Victor Bernat almost lost his P2, which he had fought for pretty much the entire race, and in a mistake that he kind of repeated after he lost the chance to battle Johan.
And sorry to cut you off, Sarah, but I have the points now. So Andy Park is P4 with 57, Victor and Johan in P2 with 58, and Icebrand in P1 with 61.
That is
so
incredible.
It's a very, very close championship at the moment.
Wow. All right. And we will obviously be back here in a couple of weeks' time. It will be to Silverstone.
Hello.
Oh, hi. I would like to chat with our winner first, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, how are
Jennifer,
you?
if you could please wait for us to drag you in.
Yes.
I dragged enough. Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. Don't worry.
Oh,
So let's speak to our winner first. Of course, it's his home race, and I think he deserves some love. But Johan Kowalczak, congratulations! You win your home race at your home track. How does that feel? As we have a sound coming in. Thanks, Nick.
Such a great music. I mean, I have to be fair. I wasn't thinking at all it was in France when that happened. Just I took the opportunity in front of me, people crashing or having issues. So it's a great feeling. I mean, it's a bigger feeling that it's my first AFR win. It's more important that being the home race, but it's a nice bonus as well.
Absolutely. You did not put a foot wrong in your own race as well, and everybody else just seemed to struggle around here. What was the key to making all of that work?
I'd say, I mean, honestly, I don't know. Had some difficult moments right before pitting. I was a bit pressured by Victor there, but otherwise, it just I felt confident in the car. I set it up correctly, not to have the kind of massive snap oversteers I had in Jarama or the tracks we had before. And then it's just a matter of staying focused. I guess I was in a good spirit mood today to not, have some, brain issues or not brain issues. I don't know how to say it, but to just have your mind thinking about something else and then being unfocused and stuff like this, which is what happens to me usually. So yeah, I'd say that. I'd say just serene, good preparation.
And that is a very good reason indeed. But I really want to focus on now your future races, because this means that the top four in the championship, Nick might correct me here, are absolutely tied together going into the next 6 races, which are coming up. How do you feel about your chances, or do you feel like you need to probably focus on other positions elsewhere on the leaderboard?
I had practically gave up, or at least I think after the first race, I had not gave up, but not even thought about a championship challenge. So seeing that and seeing that both Iceburn and Andy just scored null on, not Andy because I think he scored some points on the lower end of the field, but seeing them both out of the race, basically, that's just sad. I thought about it while racing. That was a motivation, but at the same time, also more pressure. But I don't know. I feel like I'm going to take what's available on the table. If that yields a good result, but not the top spot, so be it. If more, let's say, issues or errors or stuff like this happens, then I'd be glad to take it as well. But there's no huge pressure on me to win it or anything. I take what's on the table.
Okay.
If they leave too much, it's going to be taken.
Okay then. Well, Sarah, do you have any additional questions for Johan?
I do quickly just want to ask, were you thinking about the strategy at all with how difficult it is to overtake on this track when we saw you come out of, or rather, I think it was Victor who came out of the pits side by side with you?
Yes.
Yeah. We were kind of in a stalemate with Victor in the first stint. Maybe not so much in the end, but that's something that helped me decide. He was a bit slower on the straight. He was a bit slower on the first corner. He had some dirty air there, not first corner, second corner. But he caught a lot in the last UK in a sector where I was a bit struggling, not very consistent there. So seeing that and seeing that he was putting more and more pressure and using push to passes, I wanted to avoid him undercutting me.
Mhm.
Because I knew if he undercut me with free air and with fresh tires, he would be faster than me at that time. So I preferred to let him have free air still, but with used tires, and me have that, so on paper, faster lap after exiting the pits. It didn't work that well. It did work, but I had to count on him making a mistake, so I could pass him again. But I'd say it was the most favorable option between both, because we had to think about pitting. We could not just wait until lap 20 or something, because there was no safety car in this race, so the chance of FCY was a bit low. So yeah, so that was my main way of thinking at that time.
Thank you very much. Liz, if Sarah has any additional questions, I don't have any more.
Yep, I don't have any more questions either.
Thank you very much. Well, Johan, we'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Congratulations again on your win. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye bye. All right, and next up we have our third place driver, Juniper Makova. Congratulations on what was in the end third place, but ultimately that 3-second penalty cost you any chance of catching up to Victor, despite trying very hard to get that window.
I would have had the gap if I took it too much on the curve and I spun to rear left and it just hooked me to the wall. So unfortunate though, but it's a good step forward, at least for me. So really good step forward.
just kind of to ask on top of that as well, what was well, I'll save that question for Sarah, but like, what was you thinking going in? Because you were really fighting at the top there after Iceberg Stopper had his collision, and of course Andy Park had his had, unfortunately, I think it was a hardware issue, but we don't have that confirmed as of right
Yeah,
We
he
do
says.
have
Yeah,
that
he says
confirmed.
control.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
he
hard.
confirmed his controller disconnected.
control disconnected. So there we go.
Yeah.
But like, what were you thinking you could catch up to Johan, or were you more focused on
Honestly,
Johan?
I was just letting the
Victor.
two of them fight. I try to tend to go a little bit longer on the first stint because a lot of the tracks it actually works.
Hmm.
So I just fell back a bit, just try to put consistent lap times down, and it ended up working. I'll be like it's a little bit in the pits, but I did end up jumping Victor after the pit stop. So it just seems like going. It just seems like even though like we changed the tire wear, still going long on tires is still an advantage.
Hmm.
So I just fell back, try to keep like consistent like 16, 17, 7, 17, 8. Because when I practiced, I saw was what time I could do keep the tires in a window where they wouldn't degrade too much. So I just ended up doing that. It worked. I mean, I lost a little bit of time because I spun, and then because when I saw Andy was off track, it kind of kind of shook me a bit. So I spun. I had an empathy spin in the hairpin there, but yeah, I just want to let them fight and kill their tires because I knew they'd have to pit early then because of that. So I just did my own race for the first stint.
And then I'm sure
I
Sarah has a couple of questions
yeah,
on top of that.
I I do want to ask, how confident were you in being able to build that 3 second gap, and were you pushing that extra bit just to try to get that 3 second gap, and did that
Honestly,
lead to you spinning?
I could have pushed more. I just made a mistake in the hairpin, and in the chicane, and it killed me. That's all. I could have pushed a bit more. Just I made the setup a tiny bit too unstable in race trim. But I mean, could I gotten the 3 second gap easily, easily.
And finally, what were your feelings seeing Victor make a mistake in the final corner again, coming across the line?
Oh, he did.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he lost about 5 seconds at the end.
I mean, I had a red front wing. I wasn't catching them anyway. I was my car
Okay.
turned into a boat. Those
I
last two laps, it was like
see the problem.
trying to drive a freaking 18-wheeler.
Yeah, I see the problem now.
Yeah, you see why I kind of fell back a little bit. My front wing was detached completely.
Well, thank you very much for that insight, and I don't think we have any further questions for you. We do want to wish you a congratulations on your P3. It was a good performance
you.
regardless of what happened, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep, thank you.
And I think with that, we are concluding for tonight. We do not have second place Victor in the rating room, but regardless, that was a very entertaining afternoon, all things considered. There might not have been a lot of overtaking, but a lot of stories have panned out that we are very excited to see continue into the next race. Sarah, any final thoughts before we go?
Not really. I'm just excited to see the rest of the races because now with the championship being separated, the top four being separated by 5 points only, I think we're set up for an amazing season. And if the races are going to be as unpredictable as this, I think it's gonna set us up amazingly for a spectacular watch and hopefully a spectacular championship for the drivers involved.
Absolutely, and I also cannot wait this. As you can see now on your screen, we do have the calendar, so it is going to be, we're going to be here next time on the 11th of May. That will be in Silverstone, and what a track that produces a lot of racing. I think we will see a lot more drivers even attend for that one. It's usually a classic whenever I've commentated on it in other games and in Assetto Corsa as well, so I imagine it will be no different. That is if I can make it, but I'm sure somebody in this server is more than competent enough to take over the reins from myself while I am dealing with my own schedule. Sarah, Before I sign off, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to have you and your insights throughout the afternoon, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
All right, and from ourselves at AFR, we wish you a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Stay safe, stay alive. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time on the 11th of May in Silverstone. But also, thank you to our sponsors, NordVPN and Moser Racing. It has been an absolute pleasure to help you all both supporters in running this championship. From myself and everybody here, we thank you all for watching, and for tonight, we say farewell. See you in Silverstone. Bye-bye.